go right ahead. So, in-season tournament group play is officially over. We have the Eastern Conference teams that are expected to play in the in-season tournament. So I'm just going to go ahead and pull up the let me pull up the slideshow. Give me 1 second. There we go. Well, not really a slide, but the website, because for some reason I couldn't find I couldn't find the actual graphic of like how the tournament is structured, but regardless, that's whatever. So, as you could see, out of nowhere, the Milwaukee Bucks are the number 1 team in the entirety of the Eastern Conference. Darvin Ham is still undefeated in the in-season tournament, by the way, which is really, it's unbelievable to think about, but at the same time, it's a little bit, it's whatever, right? And the Knicks, they're also 4-0. The reason why the Bucks are ranked higher than them is because the tiebreaker is point differential, and even if they were similar in point differential, the Bucks scored more points. So there wouldn't really be any sort of debate on whether or not on who is supposed to be up here and who is supposed to be in the 1 seed and the 2 seed. So then in the third, and by the way, that would mean that the New York Knicks, they ended up winning last night against Orlando, so I ended up getting that prediction right. Spoiler alert. And the Hawks, they ended up going 3-1, and they had a plus 15. Now, I know what you guys are probably thinking. Why did the Hawks end up winning this the 3rd seed as opposed to the Orlando Magic, when the Orlando Magic have a much better point differential than the Atlanta Hawks? And the reasoning for that is because, let me pull up the other slide. Give me 1 second. If it'll pull up, there we go. Now you can see that the Hawks, they're grouped up with all of these teams. And none of these teams were able to make the cut because the winner, the players, well, not the players, the teams that determine the spots, the top spots in the in-season tournament are the winners of each group. And so the Hawks, they just had a much better record than everyone else in this group. And everyone else in this group, every other team in this group, just was not able to compete with the point differential and the record of the Orlando Magic. So that's the reason why the Orlando Magic is in the postseason, despite this is why the Hawks are at number 3 and the Orlando Magic are at number 4, despite the Orlando Magic having a much better point differential in the tiebreaker. Because as you can see, compared to every other team that was fighting for a wild card, they have the record and they have the better point differential, which is why they hold the wild card spot. And that's just, a little bit of an explainer how it works. Now, the Celtics, obviously, they end up what's really surprising to me is how, at the end of the day, the Atlanta Hawks, they ended up clinching this spot as opposed to the Celtics, despite the Celtics having a better point differential. But it's probably because the Atlanta Hawks, they ended up beating the Celtics. So that's probably why they ended up getting in there as opposed to not getting in there. But that is it's a little bit interesting. I do got to say that definitely is a little bit interesting. Considering how, the Celtics, they have the better point differential than the Atlanta Hawks, yet the Atlanta Hawks are the number 1 team in their specific group. So it's a little bit odd. I don't know how I feel about the Hawks holding this spot as opposed to the Celtics, because I understand that the Hawks, they ended up beating the Celtics in the in-season tournament, but still I don't think that's I don't know. I'm not entirely sure if that's valid, but regardless, that's one side of the conference. So now let's go over to West Side and get this Western Conference out of the way. So as you guys, I'm sure all of you are happy, the Lakers are eliminated. So boo-hoo. I'm upset that they got eliminated because they had to drop the last 2 games against Phoenix and against an injured OKC, mainly because LeBron doesn't know how to shoot. It is very, very unfortunate, but that's besides the point. So the Thunder, they clinch the number one spot with, obviously having a much better point differential than every other team, aside from the Dallas Mavericks, as well as the tiebreaker that they got between the Houston Rockets. So that puts them in number one, even though it doesn't really matter because that's usually how it works. Houston, they end up going in the second spot. Houston has been a very pleasant surprise this year. And the Golden State Warriors, despite losing to Denver last night, they still had enough to clinch. And, I mean, Denver, the Western Conference was much closer than the Eastern Conference, at least in my opinion. Because it's like we didn't know exactly who was going to, like, which team was going to make it in until the very last day for the Western Conference. Where in the Eastern Conference, it was only like, okay, I'm not sure about two teams. But the Western Conference had way more possibilities and way more outcomes. And then the Dallas Mavericks, they host a wild card spot, and they have the best point differential out of everybody in the entirety of the group that they're in. Now, the group that they're in is, hold on just 1 second, let me pull it up. The group that they're in is with the Denver Nuggets, the Pelicans, the Grizzlies, and the Golden State Warriors. So they were able to they lost to the Warriors, which was the only loss that they had, but then they were able to win against New Orleans. New Orleans, excuse me. I don't know why I couldn't pronounce that. Then they were able to beat Denver, and then they were able to beat the Memphis Grizzlies. And because they have literally the big difference between the Dallas Mavericks and everyone else in their group play, aside from the Golden State Warriors, is the team record. Because everybody else that's on every other team that's in Group C, the Grizzlies, the Pelicans, and the Denver Nuggets. Hold on just 1 second. You can see that the Denver Nuggets, they're 2-2, so they don't have the record. The Grizzlies, they're 1-3, so they also don't have the record. And then the Pelicans are also 1-3, which they don't have the record, which is why the Dallas Mavericks are up here. Phoenix, they do not get chosen for this, mainly because because of the point differential being so wide. I mean, the Dallas Mavericks, they completely dominated in the point differential throughout the entirety of the in-season tournament. And the Phoenix Suns, they were really close. They were close, but unfortunately, they had to drop that game against OKC, which ultimately ended up bringing them down here, which is unfortunate. The Clippers surprisingly performed better than the Lakers in the in-season tournament. The Lakers, they ended with a negative point differential. Meanwhile, the Clippers ended with a positive point differential. And it was just like, that's disgusting to think about. That's gross to think about, at least in my opinion. But the Lakers, they do not deserve a spot in the in-season tournament because of how this went. So the way that the seedings are going, obviously the number one seed is going to play the team that has the Eastern Conference or the Western Conference wild card. So OKC is going up against Dallas, Milwaukee is going up against Orlando, and then in the 2 and the 3 seed are going to match up against each other as well. And it should also be noted that the Pacers, they ended up making it to the in-season tournament finals last year, but this year they have been unable to win a single game in the in-season tournament games. And it was bad. It was really bad for them. Look at that point differential and look at that record. That is absolutely disgusting. And I'm surprised no one's really talking about it that much. I don't know what happened to Tyrese Halliburton. And, speaking of Tyrese Halliburton, notice how Tyrese Halliburton's team is 0-4, but Trae Young's team is 3-1. It's almost as if Trae Young is a better point guard than him. But I digress. So, as I was saying, the 2 and the 3 spot, they're going to play against each other. And, obviously, we know the Lakers, they did not make it. So, Let's get into predictions. Why not? Let's see. Who do we think is going to make it to the semifinals? I am going to put my money on the New York Knicks. Now, if the New York Knicks win this whole thing, then most likely that everyone is going to clown them because it's like, oh, this is the only championship that the Knicks are able to win. Oh my God, or something like that. And then I'm going to just go with the Milwaukee Bucks. I don't think that the Orlando Magic are going to be able to beat them, at least with how the Bucks have been playing right now, I have a lot of faith in Giannis. I have a lot of faith in that man. That guy can drop a 40-point triple-double in his sleep. And I don't know. I'm just going to go with the Bucks on this one. I'm going to go with my gut. I'm going to go with the Bucks. I would not mind being wrong whatsoever. And now for the Western Conference, OKC going up against Dallas. I really want to pick OKC, but I'm more concerned of the fact that they don't have Chet Holmgren and that the injuries are going to be a little bit too much. And that the Dallas Mavericks do have some offensive firepower that they can use. OKC has some as well, but that one's going to be a really tough one because I can totally see Luka completely upsetting the entire competition. And then Houston going up against Golden State. I think Houston is going to end up winning in this matchup. I think the team is just better, and they're in a much better spot than the Golden State Warriors. I mean, you look at that point differential and how they've been able to dominate and win in practically every single game. I do understand that the Warriors, they were able to get the scoring done, but look at the Houston's defense. Like, the defense that they've been able to play on some of these teams. Granted, Portland is not really, I don't really think it should be considered a solid and decent team, compared to all the teams that they got to play in here. Still, Houston has proven to be a very good team in the Western Conference right now, so I would go with Houston in this one. But between the Thunder and the Dallas Mavericks, that one I'm not entirely sure. I think I'm going to have to sit on that a little bit, and I'll give that prediction at the end of the day when I finally make my decision, because it's really tough to figure out which one is going to make it. I genuinely do not know, but that's it for the first segment. So now we're going to go ahead and go into the second segment where I talk about Joe Burrow and his ridiculous season that he's having and how unfortunate it is. So I'll be right back after this short break. Be sure to stay tuned.
I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign. I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign.
I wanna be the greatest. Everybody on the fake shit. I look around and feel like everybody is the fakest. I make this every day and I'm impatient, hoping one day I blow up from the basement. Statement, the top is so vacant. I don't hear shit that I think is amazing. Waiting for my day when I'm playing sold out shows for 1,000 faces. Hey, give me that crown, get in my way and to be put down. It ain't your place, all this my town. If I want that shit, then I'll get it right now. I'm losing it, the noose it fits, I'm losing shit, a stupid myth. You choose to live or choose to dip, you choose to fight or lose your grip and lose a gift.
I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign. I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in